Hey, Delina here. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to face swap this face right here, sweet girl, onto this one right here. Okay, so I like the coloring on this one. First, I'm going to go ahead and straighten that horizon there. And they're already pretty centered. Okay, so the first thing that I notice about this one is the angle compared to this one. They're just a little bit different, not too much though. So I think that it should just be an easy like copy and paste and then blend. But what I am going to do, since they are different colors, I'm going to color match this photo to this one. Okay, so this has more brightness, more warmth. So I'm just going to do a simple, this right here, this little icon has different adjustments, and I'm going to choose a color balance. Okay, so I'm just going to make it more warm. Bring in a little bit more magenta. A little bit more reds. Not too much. Maybe a little bit more warmth. Okay, let's see if that matches. It's better. Maybe a little bit more brightness. There we go. Okay. So basically what I'm looking at is I'm ignoring the background. I'm just looking at her face, and I'm trying to get her face as close as possible. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to flatten this. And now I'm going to take my lasso tool right here. And I'm just going to draw around. And then I'm going to hold Control and J. And what that does is it puts my selection on its own layer. So now I can just drag it and drop it. Okay. So then I'm going to hold Control and T. And this allows me to move it around. And I'm just going to line it up as best I can. I'm going to turn down the opacity so I can see behind. And then I'm going to zoom in. And what I'm looking for is like the edge of her dress and her neck. And I'm just going to line it up. I can turn this a little. I'm just going to try to line it up as best I can. This is the part that usually takes a while, because if you miss even just a little bit, you end up with like parts randomly showing or okay, so what I'm looking at is right here, this part right here, that's like where her ear and the side of her cheek. So that matches up, but then her eyes are a little bit off. And then you can see her dress goes up that way. See, that's what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to leave her original dress, and I'm going to see if I can paint just her neck and her face in, and possibly her hat. But I gotta line this up pretty close. And you also want to make sure that her face is the same size in both of them, because you know you don't want to paint in her head too large or too small. But see, her teeth and her eyes are basically in the same width. Her nose is the same width. They may not line up perfectly, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be completely perfect, but they're the same width, they're the same size. And that's basically what I'm looking for. And I'm trying to see where her chin is. Okay, so I'm going to go with right about here. Okay. I'm going to pull this all the way up. Okay, and then I'm going to hit this little button right here, which is a layer mask. White means that the whole thing's showing. Now, if I hit Control I and I invert it, black means nothing is showing. So I don't want any of it to show right now. And then I switched over to my brush tool. And down here, black, if you have black set as the foreground color, black hides, just like it does over here. So if I switch it to white, white reveals. So if I paint like that, see it revealed? Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to make my brush small. My brush is at 100% opacity and flow. And I'm just going to zoom in here and I'm going to start painting. Just going to paint where I want it to be. I'll go back and okay, let's see. You only want to paint where you want it. You just have to make sure that you get all of it. And then I'll worry about her chin and her neck here in just a second. Okay, so see how I'm running into the other hat over here? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that her hat is completely painted in, and then I'm going to switch my colors and I'm going to erase where I don't want it. But I have to make sure that everything's painted in. Okay, so see I'm getting part of her dress over here. I'll just go ahead and paint this in. I might just do, well, no. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the black, and I'm going to go ahead and take this off, because I liked her hand where it was. Okay. I'm going to paint this off too. I don't want any of that. Okay. Okay, so see now here I have two different parts of her neck going on. So I'm going to switch it back to white. And I'm going to paint down. Okay, so that's looking pretty normal. And then you can turn this off and on and see that looks pretty natural. But I do need to fix her hat over here. Okay. I'm just gonna slowly go around here and paint that out. Okay, so now I'll switch back to black because I got this somewhat, yeah, see? Okay, so let me switch back to black, and up here I'm going to erase this part. I'm going to get real small. I might end up just having to do the face instead of the hat because it's interfering too much. Yeah, it's interfering too much. Let me see what it looks like without it. Let me see if I could just paint her face in instead of, and just leave the hat alone. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit Control J to duplicate this, and I'm just gonna turn this one off. That way if I don't like the changes that I make on this one, then I can always go back to this one. Okay, so I'm gonna right click this layer mask and I'm gonna delete the layer mask, which gets rid of all those changes that I brushed off. I'm gonna create a new layer mask, hit Control I to invert it, change my brush back to white because I want the white to reveal, and I'm just gonna paint her face in. See if this is any better. Okay, switch the brush back to black. Okay. Switched it to white. Okay. Here we go. Gotta make sure that everything is revealed in here. So I had a little that looked a little funny a second ago. Okay. Okay. So now I'm actually going to make her head just a tiny bit bigger. So I pushed Control and T at the same time, and I'm just going to take this and just drag it up just a tad, and then I'm going to bring it down Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm matching her eye height because I'm going to use her forehead in the previous one, and by making her head just a tiny bit bigger, her teeth match up, her nose for the most part, and her eyes definitely. So right about there. Her ears don't, but that's okay, because I'm just looking for the forehead part. I just need this part right here. So right there. See what that looks like. No, it needs to go down just a tad. Or her face needs to be a little bit bigger. Right about there. Okay. Right there. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Yes. That's better. It looks more like her. Okay, so now I'm going to hide this. So black brush, and I'm just going to hide this part. I'm going to bring my brush down to 50% opacity and just lightly brush. Lightly brush this back in. Okay, now I'm going to switch back to white, and I'm going to make sure the details in her ears are clear, and then the details in her eyes. Put my brush back up to 100%. I need her eyebrow back. Okay. But it looks like I need to do some color adjustments here. Let's switch back to black. I'm going to put it at 40% opacity. And just lightly brush. I don't want too much. Right here too, maybe. Yeah, there we go. Oops. Hush, bud. Okay. Back to white. Okay. Okay. Make sure all these details. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Yeah, this way worked, but just painting in her face worked better than messing with the hat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn this off and on a few times. And what I'm looking for is anything, I'm looking at the edges, the hard edges around her chin, her cheek, her ears, the hat, and her hair, to make sure that everything is consistent. See, now right here, this weird spot, I turn it. Okay, so this would probably be better I deleted it just a little bit. Look more realistic anyway. There we go. Okay, so black hides. So I'm wanting to hide what I'd painted in earlier. Okay, so now this little part right here, I'm going to switch back to a white brush, and I'm going to get really small, and I'm going to go over that edge of her cheek there to make sure it's clearly defined. Okay, that looks better. There's a little bit here, I can take that off. Okay, here. Okay, she's got like a double eyebrow thing going on over here. Okay, so that's without and that's with. So I need to erase. Actually, I need to paint in. Okay, so if I paint her eyebrow out of this one and leave it with this one, it's probably going to be up too high. Let me just look and see. Well, I mean, yes, baby. Cheesecake. Okay. Yeah, it's up too high, so let's go ahead and paint that back in. Okay, well, if you be a good boy, Mommy's almost... Oh, here, you got something in your eye. There you go. If you be a good boy, okay? Mommy's almost finished. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so this part's too dark, but I can fix that. Because her... Yeah, I made you a dinosaur picture. Here, come sit down. Come sit down. Watch Mommy. Okay, so this part right here is too dark. So what I can do is I can create a new layer and I can clip it to this one, and what clipping does is any changes that you make on this layer only affects this layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a color sample and I'm going to change this to color, and I'm going to see if this works. No, that's not going to work. Turning her purple. Okay, delete. This is why head swaps take forever. Okay, so now I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to go to my patch tool here, and I'm just going to see if this works. I'm going to just take that part. Oh, hold on. No, where's that? Where's that? Okay. Control-Alt-Shift-E. Okay, and then now I'm gonna grab this and then put it right here maybe. Okay, and I'm just gonna keep blending. This patch tool, what it does is it replaces a selected area using a pattern or pixels from another part of the image. So you have to be really careful with this, but on real pixelated areas or whatnot, you can sort of fake it, like, pretty good. I use it a lot for blending. Okay, so that's starting to look better. That's before and that's after. This does need to be lighter, so I'm gonna go back to my brush tool, sample a light color, 10% opacity, and I'm just gonna paint. I mean, when in doubt, just paint. Sample this color, and I'm just painting and blending. Just to blend her face in a little bit better with what she was underneath. It's a little too yellow right here anyway. Okay, so this is at 100%. It's still a little purple right there. And it's gonna be because some of this purple from her hat is bouncing off. Like in this original one, you've got some purple. There's some purple pixels here, but this part is gonna be darker because it's shaded. So I need to add in some of that darkness. So I'm gonna take a sample from right about here. Make my brush bigger, and I'm just gonna brush that in just a little. There. I don't want it to look dirty looking. So take it down. Okay, so now that matches her over here, and it matches this side. And her eyebrow isn't as, like, dark right here and purplish. It matches this side better. Okay, so now, alright, so what is that right there? Okay, so that's natural right there. Okay, so I'd say that's pretty good. Okay, so okay, I'm gonna go with that. Actually, I'm gonna save this first. Okay, so I'm gonna save it with the layers. That way, if I have to go back and change it, I can. And now I'm gonna flatten it. Okay, and then now I'm going to grab my healing tool and just clear that up. Okay, so now these are some of my actions here. Beauty Smoother, I'm just going to smooth their skin just a tad, brighten their eyes, and then I'll be done. So 60%, and I'm just going to smooth just a little. Okay, and smooth. Help that transition just a little. Okay, so all that does is just smooth the skin just a little. Okay, flatten that, and then I'm going to just boost their eyes just a tad. Okay. Okay, so I'm zoomed into 165% right now, so this is at 93. Eyes to pop just a little. Okay. I think that looks pretty believable. Okay. Yeah. I have no idea how long this video is, but that's a pretty standard head swap right there. I think I'm done. The colors match. I don't see anything funky that sticks out. So I think I'm going to save this and go ahead and send it. Alright, thanks.